I think we could start. Do we know the running order?
No.
Okay, I think Extinction Rebellion would be... Because I think... No, you don't want it?
No, that's
Oh,
fine.
okay,
Or no, I was going to say, or we could do a soft one to start up a bit. Maybe.
The only thing is, I think it works better when we end with football.
Is it?
Do you not...
Plus, the intro music actually sets itself up nicely for a serious talk. Then
it ends. Yeah,
it ends with a sort of
Mike, are you eating the vegan
No.
Percy Pigs? You sure?
Yeah.
I'm sure I saw him eating them.
Yeah.
No, I've not tried one yet.
That's it. He can't tell the difference.
But we're going to do that as well.
I've not tried one yet.
Should we do that now, like a blind taste test? Yeah.
Are we
But
recording?
the issue that we always have with our pods as well, and I've noticed this from the beginning, is that we tend to stumble the beginning bit, and then we get good, sort of like 20 minutes in when we're all relaxed and everyone's speaking a bit more. So I don't know.
You're saying this on the pod while we're recording.
We're recording.
As well, yeah.
Oh right. I thought you...
Nah, it's all cool.
We can cut that out.
I'll be honest, I like it. It's sort of very meta. It's very breaking the fourth wall.
Breaking the fourth
now,
wall. Yeah, of course, man.
I like this kind of style anyway. But Mike, you should maybe explain the issue with the
So what's the issue with this?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I woke up the other morning and went to work, and on my way into work, I saw a article that says that Percy Pigs, from now on, Marks and Spencer's Percy Pigs, will be vegan and vegetarian only. And once they've got rid of their stockpile of normal Percy Pigs, they will be no more. They're not going to cater in that way anymore. Which, not that I'm an avid eater of Percy Pigs, but it just strikes me that they're wholesale changing something that's been around for so long, just to cater for people like Jazz.
Hi.
Yeah. So back again. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Jazz is with us again. Yeah.
Yep.
It's gonna be like a permanent thing.
Hopefully.
It's just becoming a regular thing.
All right. Cool. Yeah. So me, Ed, like Mike, Nav, Shane, and Jazz. Yeah. Tight men. All good. Was it? Yeah. So Mike, you gonna try? You gonna do like a blind test?
I'm going to do a blind taste test. Well, it's not very blind because I'm looking at them. But
I'll mix them.
I'm going to do a taste test. Yeah. But the only point that I really wanted to drum home is why can't there be a kale nicey made and packeted? And the irony of it as well is that they're still pigs. They're still called Percy Pigs. So I don't get it.
That's a good point, I guess. Yeah.
Do we agree with that?
Well, I completely
thinking
agree.
like
I completely
Kerry
agree.
Kale or something like that.
Yeah, or kale nicey. I think that's got a nice ring to it.
I don't understand.
Jazz, would you eat a kale nicey?
I would, but I prefer to eat a veggie Percy Pig though.
But to be quite honest, I don't understand why Marks and Spencer's couldn't just create a new product.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the discontinuation of the meat one the gelatin one.
That's the issue. I mean, couldn't they just create a similar product which was just suitable for vegetarians?
So I'm gonna. Am I the only one who actually thinks it's a good idea?
No, to be honest, I'm ambivalent.
Oh, you would be, yeah. Fences.
No, that's fine. That's
Fences.
fine.
Exactly.
I'll say. You say your piece. I'll just say what I think after.
So we can use it to tie into the other topic we're going to talk about, the Extinction Rebellion stuff. But I think it's off the backdrop of basically a lot of advice coming out that we need to eat less meat now. Just based on climate change and climate breakdown, and that most people out there, they say the two things you can do as a domestic consumer: one, eat less meat, and two, waste less food. That's the easiest stuff you can do. And to me, it seems like discontinuing the gelatin from a Percy pig is kind of a low-hanging fruit in terms of they don't taste exactly the same. What
do they taste like, Jazz?
It tastes a little bit like cardboard and washing up liquid. But I also think it's an important statement as well, like from a big company like Marks and Spencer's, a big brand, to say that that one of our flagship items, we're going to make it vegetarian, vegan friendly. I think it's a move that shows that it just pushes people to think about the fact that we need to be more plant-based, more vegetarian in our diet.
I could understand the idea, but for me, I don't think they probably kill any animals to actually produce the gelatin. I think it's probably a byproduct of killing animals to eat meat.
You're probably right. I mean, I don't know. But at the same time, if we're going to kill less animals anyway, and we're going to rear less animals, we're not going to eat as much meat. There'll be less gelatin.
I suppose that's true.
Mike's just eating the veggie Percy pig.
What do you think? You need to see his face. You really need to see his face right now.
It's a lot thicker.
It is, yeah.
Isn't it?
The gelatin makes it more elastic.
Right, I'm gonna have a little go. Let's have a little.
If I'm being 100% honest, it doesn't taste too. Oh no, the aftertaste's a bit shit. Yeah, that
Give one of the meat
aftertaste
ones
is not
to
great.
take the taste away.
Wash your mouth out with one of them.
These are the good old-fashioned bad boys. It's just a lot more soothing in your mouth, that one.
I don't think there's.
I'll have
Let me have one of the ones with the gelatin in it.
It's the aftertaste that gets you. Wait there, yeah, finish that and swallow it and just give it a second. It's the aftertaste. I can see where the washing up liquid distinction comes in.
It really shuts it off.
Yeah.
For me, not so much flavour for me. For me, it's more texture.
It's really thick, isn't it? Like a, yeah.
It feels almost marshmallowy, sort of. I don't know. I prefer the gelatin one.
It's not bad. It's just different.
Yeah. Yeah. But if I was a fan of Percy Pig, I would actually stop eating it.
Yeah.
If they changed it to that, I would
exactly,
actually.
yeah.
I
And
would
like I
actually
said, I'm
stop
not
eating
an
it.
avid Percy Pig eater. I mean, before this evening, probably the last time I ate one was about 15 years ago, I reckon. But it just, I can't understand the necessity why they couldn't just make a whole new sweet.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I agree with you. This is symptomatic of how much like animal byproducts are in everything that we use and take for granted. Like apparently it's in like washing up liquid and not liquid, washing up powder and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's in everything, like in your clothes, and all of that has to change. Like they have to make things a different way.
I understand that. I
20,
understand
30
that.
years. So this is there's going to be many more Percy Pig type things where they're going to have to change the way things are made because they need to use less animal products.
Mike's going to get pissed off.
Well, you know, I spend a lot of time pissed off anyway, so...
To back that point up, I do agree that as human beings we do consume far too much meat anyway. I think the amount of meat that we do consume is not actually healthy at all. And for a healthy diet, I think it's ridiculous the amount of meat you're meant to eat a week. It's really small. And this is obviously what the experts tell you. I can't remember what the exact.
But doesn't it
figures
depend
are,
on what meat it is?
No, I actually think
So
that
like
we
lean,
eat,
like turkey meat,
you're
for
not
instance.
you're not
is-
meant to eat meat every day, and if you do, it's a really small amount. I can't remember what the grammage is, but it's a really small amount. It's not, it's not like a steak. A steak is too much meat in one day's meal.
Well, it depends what you do, isn't it? I mean, like if you're a bodybuilder, for instance, you need the protein. So chicken, red meat, turkey, lean turkey meat.
Yeah,
For
but
all our listeners, Mike goes to the gym. just dropping that.
I'm not
to be
a
quite
bodybuilder.
honest, bodybuilding is actually not really natural. You're actually consuming an excess of something. To
All right, yeah,
become
no,
bigger.
maybe
So it's not
bodybuilding
actually-
was
yeah,
the
it's
wrong
not a
thing.
natural-
For anybody who goes to the gym and wants to build muscle,
Like you, Mike, yeah?
like me, yes, thank you. Anyone who wants to get lean and in shape that way, you need a high protein diet.
Yeah, but you can get protein
I know you
elsewhere.
can,
I
like
mean, you
protein
don't
shakes
have
and
to have
stuff, yeah,
meat.
fine.
But also you guys I think you can probably find evidence either way.
Yeah.
Actually high meat protein based diet encourages like muscle building. You can probably find there's different types of analysis out there, but you're both looking at it from what we should be consuming to for health reasons.
Yeah.
And I think the advice now is more about what you're doing in terms of
For the environment.
Yeah, the environment
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
repercussions. Like just like when you're having cows, like dairy products, like the amount of soy they have to eat, and like what that does to they're digging up rainforests or whatever to create feed for cows because they need their milk and then their beef and all the rest of it. So it's looking at it from a slightly different perspective.
Could a case be made that if you're not eating meat, let's just say someone who enjoys eating meat, and then they don't eat meat,
Is that you,
and they're
like
just
that?
going to... It is me. I'm talking about...
I could see the wry smile on his face.
Let's call him Nigel.
Yeah, all I was going to say is I just thought if I don't eat meat for a day, I don't know, and then I'll be upset. so does people's happiness come into it?
Yeah,
Absolutely not. No, it does not.
No.
Don't you think all vegetarians are miserable?
I think there might be something to that.
I see some correlation there.
Are you miserable, Jazz?
That isn't a vegetarian.
Have you met?
We're talking about going for a kebab after this.
Have you met a happy vegetarian?
No,
I'm a fake veggie.
yeah. So I don't know. It's just a balance, isn't it? I mean, I don't know about the studies and stuff like that, but I think it's a tricky one because you're imposing. You're imposing a diet on people, right?
But that's just the cusp of it, though. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. And we can merge this into the next topic. But the fact is that at the moment there's general agreement, by scientists who are way more intelligent and know way more than we do about the subject. But we we've got 12 years to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide we put out into the atmosphere. And a big part of that is eating meat. So it's no longer like, my opinion, you should eat less meat because it affects the world in a bad way. It's we all have to do this.
Yeah, but we all have to do lots of things which we don't do.
That's really important.
I mean, we should get more.
Hey, guys, that's really
use
important.
Public
But I just have to
transport
say, like, the regular Percy Pigs taste so much better.
Tastes so much better.
Are you happier?
I am much happier. I'm surprised. I'm not a Percy Pig fan. I just like
that place empty. This one's full.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a Michael win. Thank you.
That is a win.
Taste.
Thank you very much.
A Michael win for taste, but
Absolutely.
a loss for the environment.
But in terms of the environment thing,
A loss for the human race
I'll take that. That's fine.
and the planet.
in terms of the environment thing, I think there's far more things that we could do which are far more immediate than to stop using animal products. I mean, in terms of the environment,
Like what?
there's loads of things we could.
Electric cars.
Yeah, we could start driving more electric cars. There's plenty that we could do. We could start looking at renewable energy sources.
But it's way easier to eat less meat than it is to like change all our infrastructure to get like.
Is it though?
But is it?
No, I think Jazz is right there. It's obviously it's cost effective as well than to wholesale.
I don't think it is easier because I think in terms of eating less meat, I think you're relying on the individual. Whereas if you, for instance, I don't know, look at renewable energy sources, you're relying on industry, which is far easier. I think it's easier for industry to say, right, we're not going to make petrol cars anymore, than to say every human stop eating or reduce your meat intake.
I'll give you a couple examples. So like how many controversies and politics there are involved with just moving to more of a renewables based economy. Like we wanted to buy an electric car, but we live in a flat in central London, and there's nowhere to charge the car. It's not like we have a drive. It's not easy. Like you'd have to call the council to put a station up so you can charge your car. It's too difficult because we don't get parking outside.
But it's still industry could do something about
but
that.
Then another thing, like the UK a little while ago, we had a big push towards like wind farms and harvesting wind farm. The amount of backlash there is about putting up, just three or four turbines
Because it ruins the environment.
Yeah, people hate it.
It ruins
everyone will be like, you know what? I understand we need to move to more renewable energy and we need to have wind farms, but not here. It's too nice here, and you're going to devalue my house. And with all like. There's been a couple of documentaries recently about how ExxonMobil and all these big companies, they learnt about this climate science like in the 80s, and they hired like industrial lobbyists and things to actually sow false information out there. Mm-hmm. So for like 20, 30 years, we've just been hanging around.
Doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many like big politics at play in terms of pushing fossil fuels and dirty energy. It's way easier to just say, I'm going to have a green Percy Pig today instead of a red one.
But again, I think you're still relying on the individual, and I think to change the mindset of the entire population to consume less meat, I think is far more difficult than industry saying, all right, let's look at...
We have to do both.
We have to do both, ultimately, which I agree with. I completely agree with. But I still think it's far more difficult to change the mindset of the public than it is for industry to just say, right, let's do this correct.
I do agree. I agree with Jazz. I mean, taking the Percy Pigs out of it, because like I said, that's a win. So we'll leave that as it is. But I think...
He doesn't win much.
If you think about it in this sense, I mean, how long would it take to roll out wholesale electric cars? Years and years for everybody to get round to getting an electric car. How long would it take for everyone to stop eating meat?
We have to change the mindset.
No. But I'm saying, let's talk.
Would you stop eating?
Hypothetically, think about it. How long would it take for the world's population to stop eating meat?
I think it would take far longer than industry to.
No, if you was actually right. So let's say that you had thought to yourself, "I'm not going to eat meat anymore."
Yeah.
That's in an instant. You're not going to eat meat. So from the very next day, you're not eating meat. So now do that on a world scale.
Yeah, but how many conscious individuals are out there?
I'm talking hypothetically. If you was to think about it from that perspective.
Yeah, but we're taking out factors. But you can't take out the factors that are at play, because then it just becomes, oh well, if everyone decides to do it, then it's fine. But of course it is.
Well, no, but
everyone won't decide to do it. That's
everyone's
the point.
not going to decide to do it. But if you look at it from that, but how long would it take to wholesale roll out electric cars? You're talking years, decades.
I mean, the government have only committed to doing it by like 2040, which is way too late.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that it's easy for the government to say, right, the government can do it in 5 years. What I'm saying is it's easier for them to just say, right, this is what's right for the planet, do it, than it is for you to wholesale change everybody's opinion in the world to eat less meat. It is easy for industry and government to do something about it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be consuming less meat. I'm just saying that it's far easier for industry and government to just say, right, we're not going to do this anymore. And there would be nothing we could do about it.
Do you know what I think the difficulty is? I think when climate change always comes up, it's when you say climate change, I think in the short term we mean things are getting warmer, right? I mean that's the short term view, and who doesn't like the warm weather? So, hear me out.
Right,
So
see
like,
you guys.
You know, like was it a couple of weeks ago in March?
I love it.
When it was just really, really nice weather. Everyone's out in the park, drinking a beer.
Yeah.
You know, Ed with his Pims or whatever. Now you got.
You know me well, Jazz. You know me well.
Racist.
Don't edit that one out. But my point I'm trying to make is that you're asking people to make all these changes, and yet they're sitting around and they're like, "Well, this is nice." It's hard for a person, I think, to change their whole life when nothing in the short term is.
And that's what I'm getting at. And that's exactly what I'm getting at. It's harder to change the minds of the people than it is for a government or industry to just say, right, we're not going to do it anymore.
Okay, so there's a couple of things, right? Firstly, like we're in a lucky position, like being in London, where we can get Pims and kale smoothies when it's hot, and it's nice, and we can enjoy them outside. But like, there's loads of like just in the UK, for example, there's loads of like coastal communities up and down the country which are having way more flooding now, and that's messing everything up. It's messing up their livelihoods. Like, you know, like places like Vietnam or Bangladesh, where it's flooding way more now. And for them, like climate change isn't something, or rather, climate breakdown isn't something that's happening in the future. They're literally living through it now. Like
then shouldn't it be a worldwide problem? And
absolutely, it is a worldwide problem. That's a 100% what it is. So that's the point. Like I think whilst it's all right for us in the short to medium term, and actually, like I said, we live in a country where it might be better for us than other people, but worldwide it's going to create a lot of problems. Like when there's 1 million migrants coming from somewhere because their arable land has been destroyed, it's going to be on it's going to be us who are struggling to accommodate them, or there's going to be loads of problem at borders and things like that. And then to your point, Shane, about the government needs to take action versus placing the burden on the individual. It needs to be a combination.
I completely agree with that.
We've been waiting 25 years for governments.
Yeah.
And the one positive thing I'd say about the positive thing I think about the XR rebellion stuff is that it's got all of us talking about it. Whether they may have annoyed people, you may not agree with what they've done, you may not agree with Emma Thompson flying over, but that was like 4 weeks ago, and we're still talking about it.
That's true.
I think they needed
which
to
is
do
really
that.
important.
For the point I made, is just that what they needed to do something dramatic because people just aren't caring enough.
No, they
you know what I mean. So I get the protest method that they did, and I was like, okay.
But again, they were lobbying government, which is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be a combination of the two things, which I completely agree that it should be. I'm just saying that government, if they wanted to, they can implement a solution very quickly. I mean, we're saying, we're not going to get cars it could take a decade, but that's only because they are dragging their feet. Okay, if they wanted it to happen in the next 5 years, it will happen.
Yeah, and the point I think is, Jazz, is the point that I think is that why aren't the government doing it then? If it is as serious as everyone's making out, and I'm not saying obviously the science is there. I'm not going to argue that climate change isn't happening. I'm not one of those, but why aren't they doing anything?
Because there's so many vested interests, like selling, people on big corporate boards, like shareholders, stakeholders, like people, landowners who don't want things to change because they've made a lot of money,
wealth, and power.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's all these vested interests, and unfortunately, depending on what side you look at things, climate change is going to result in a lot of people losing a lot of money.
Yeah, completely agree. Which is why it's a bit of a. It's a bit of a no-brainer to actually do something.
I mean, there's opportunities.
Yeah, but there's more people who have had money for a longer time who are going to lose money.
I think that's the biggest thing, and that's why so many people poo-poo it. I think it's because it's going to lose a lot of people money. It is going to lose a lot of people money. But with the Extinction Rebellion, I agree with what they were saying, and I agree with what they were doing, and I fully support them. And if they hand me a document to sign it, I'll sign it. But I feel the hypocrisy of it was like through the roof. Because when they left what they were doing, the amount of plastic bottles and the clear up and the plastic bags and all that, and like you said, Jazz, Emma Thompson flying over on a private jet. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And
she was first class, not private jet.
Oh. Is that left or right? I don't know which way that is. I've never been there. Sorry. But yeah. So I just think the hypocrisy of it was ridiculous. it was absolutely ridiculous. Because did you see the photos floating around after from when they'd actually left outside Whitehall and all that sort of stuff and outside Parliament? Did you not see it? The clear up was like, they reckon it was about a 6 or 7 hour clear up with all the plastic bags and bottles and rubbish that was just, and you just think to yourself, hang on a minute, you're stood there, you know, protesting over the extinction of the human race because of climate change, and yet you're leaving tons and tons of plastic. And
If they were like Japanese like supporters at football games where they clean up after themselves, that would be...
why not?
No, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Wouldn't it be
why not?
wonderful?
You know, you see
if
all
people
these,
actually took
you see all these
responsibility.
billboards and all that, and all these advertisements about next time you're at the beach, spend 10 minutes picking up rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, sweet if you're going to do it. So, you know, and they're the ones that are pushing these images, but yet they've got up and left all their shit.
There is one thing though about talking about climate change, because where it elicits this thing, like for example, so I talk about it a lot with people, but I've flown 4 times already this year, which is completely hypocritical, and absolutely, and I'm the first to admit I am a hypocrite.
First class?
About it. Yeah, no, I wish.
No, it was business class.
Cattle class. And I'm the first person to admit I'm a hypocrite about it, but it's going to mean that everybody's going to have to make a lot of personal sacrifice. And yeah, you're right. Like, I don't know whether I didn't read that thing or see what was left over. I'm sure there were some scenes, because it was in a lot of different places where there's probably rubbish. You know, who knows?
Well, maybe we force the change. Maybe we force it.
I think that the moment you think that you put it on someone, that the person who stands up and says, it's like Greta, the Swedish schoolgirl.
Yeah.
Like everyone, you know, she stands up and she makes a point, and everyone's like, well, it's all right for you. You're well off. Your parents can afford for you to take trains everywhere and blah blah blah. Like, don't tell me what to do. I think it just encourages, you're just looking for excuses not to do stuff really, or not to hear what people are saying. Like, yeah, she is privileged, but that doesn't mean anything that what she's saying isn't less true.
Isn't the UK actually one of the better?
I thought we was further advanced than most of the world.
On what measure?
In terms of recycling and lack of, in terms of meat, I think it's the US, and then you got China and Asia, India that are the worst offenders.
A lot of it is because we export our emissions to China and India, because they
I heard that.
They make all our stuff.
I heard we send our recycling to India.
Yeah. But I mean, in the sense that all of our clothes that we're wearing now, none of them are made in this country.
Yeah.
They're all made using fossil fuels made in the Far East.
But also our recycling, I actually watched a documentary about that, and I think we actually send it all for processing in poorer countries. So we send it to poorer countries to be processed.
And I heard like they can't handle like all of the recycling they get, so a lot of it's just sitting in a port, and some of it just falls into the ocean.
I've heard, I've seen that as well, where there's stockpiles of plastics and all of this rubbish that the countries that we're sending it to can't. They can't deal with the volume that we're sending to them. Obviously, we pay them to recycle it, but we're sending so much to them that they're actually stockpiling it in their country because they can't keep up with the volume that we're sending for processing.
Where's the sense in that?
Well, exactly. We're just shifting it kind of feels like we're just shifting the blame or shifting the problem to somebody else.
It's almost as if like it then looks good on our spreadsheet.
That's why exactly it.
That's 100%.
We're shifting the problem elsewhere.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I doubt we're paying a fair penny for the recycling of these.
How are these things even
exactly?
priced?
How do you price it?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll give you I don't know. We'll give you $1 million for 100 tons of plastic. I mean, come on, you know.
There's like a cruel irony of someone like having like a vegan kale salad in a cardboard box and then throwing it in the bin, and then it's sitting in
exactly
somewhere in the Far East.
Which this is what happens, and it's exactly what happens. So, I mean, we might be the best in terms of us trying to do something, but a lot of what we're doing is actually just shifting the issue.
But that's
elsewhere.
what I mean. If that is as you say it is, which I don't doubt it is, then it just looks like it's just like a clear way of making our spreadsheets look.
Do you know what it is? It's carbon offsetting. That idea is ridiculous as well. Oh, I want to use so much carbon. What I'll do is I'll pay someone to use their bit. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean, what is this carbon offsetting? Do you even understand it?
Not enough.
I heard that we did this in Guyana. I think we bought a part of the rainforest in Guyana to offset our carbon emissions. So basically what we did is we paid Guyana, I can't remember how much it was, to basically not touch a section of the rainforest so that we could then use more carbon. Yeah. And that's what carbon offsetting is. I mean, it's a ridiculous concept.
Kind of miserable, actually.
It is a really ridiculous concept.
Is that the opportunity you're talking about, Nav, in terms of business opportunity?
No. Actually, to be fair, that's a good shout as well. I suppose what came into my head initially was that, just in terms of the meat sort of concept, if you eat less meat, then you just work towards other products. Other more veggie products, more diversify that range so people could just be like, oh, let's have a corn burger or something like that.
And everyone would be thoroughly miserable.
So I don't know. I think with this whole situation, Jazz, you're right that we're still a few weeks later still talking about it, but I still feel like nothing's happening.
Exactly.
It has but I do think that now we're at I don't think now it's going to be a revolution or whatever, but I have felt that things are changing a little, like faster than they have been, like with Greta and the school strikes, like the Extinction Rebellion stuff.
But what difference does that make?
It's just
I suppose tangibly, this is why I always struggle with protests and stuff like that. Yeah. It doesn't make a difference.
I haven't been. I'm not generally someone who believes in who thinks that protests have tangible results, but in this time you can actually see like politicians being interviewed on the news, like it comes up in all conversations, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's a massive thing, but for a year, for 3 years we've just been talking about Brexit, and now suddenly this is up there as a topic that people are talking about.
It is in the public domain now. But also, how do you, okay, we could do something about it, but how do you get the Chinas and the Americas to do things? What we could do is pretty much a drop in the ocean.
China and America are probably two different things. I was listening on the radio, someone raised that point, like,
but Trump disbelieves it as anyway, doesn't he?
He doesn't believe it even. Do they call it a climate change denial?
He thinks, he's like, the climate is changing, but there's evidence to show that it's going to change back again.
Oh, right, okay. I don't know where this evidence is coming from.
Fucking hell, man.
He's like, don't worry, we've got the best people working on it.
Oh, right.
His son, yeah.
Which means his son.
But to the China point, a lot of people are like, they, at the same time, yes, they have the biggest emissions as a total per nation, but per capita, it's like way low.
Because they've got like nearly 2 billion people.
Exactly, and then if you factor in how much they're producing that everybody else is consuming, they're even further lower.
So do you think we need to look at it on a per capita basis then?
Yeah.
In terms of responsibility,
because then it does put it on the person.
It does put it on the individual then. So if we're looking at it per capita, I suppose it's fair then that China are emitting what they're emitting,
exactly.
because they've got far more people to look after. So
exactly.
Well, maybe that's how we should be looking at it, rather than saying that China is, this powerhouse that is basically polluting the atmosphere. Maybe we need to start looking at, okay, well, per capita, it's not really that bad.
And actually, if things were going to change and you had to move to a renewables-based economy, China would probably be, because they have a less democratic system. They'd roll out like wind,
and it'd be quick.
Like no one's business, because you haven't got a right to protest.
See, that's where communism wins over capitalism.
Wait,
you want to make changes, you just can.
You just come out as a communist. Shane.
No, I'm just saying that's where it wins over capitalism.
Bring back the Soviet Union.
If you want to make changes, you can. Like, all right, we're messing up the planet, we're fucking up the planet. Okay, well, we're not going to do that anymore. If the people cry, fuck you.
But in terms of like that per capita point, like per capita may be more fairer per person to like.
Yeah.
But then, like, if China's still emitting loads of like carbon into the atmosphere, then it's still loads of carbon, and that's kind of more relevant for the planet, really. Then it's not, the planet's going to think, like, not that the planet thinks, but you know what I mean? It's like, not like, per capita, that's okay. China's fine because they're doing less.
Yeah, but still, that's the only fair way we could do it across the globe, though, because if we're looking at it per person and what per person is being emitted, that's the only way you can do it fairly. Otherwise, we're basically asking China to reduce their emissions unfairly while we can just keep a higher standard.
No, it's true, but I just mean, like, say, I don't know, 100,000 tons of carbon into the atmosphere is still 100,000 tons.
Of course.
Even if it's like divided by 2 billion people, isn't it? So
no, I completely agree. But what do we do? I mean, this is the question. What do we do?
Yeah, and that is it. What do we do? Because China could just be like, well, no, this is our plan, but this is how we're going to, progress as a bigger economy. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. Then what happens?
Brings me back to my point. Buy the veggie Percy Pigs.
No, but will that offset?
And go on holiday 4 times a year.
Yeah. See, this is it, though, isn't it?
You've already been on 4 holidays. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm encouraging you to do the same.
Only in the 5th month. Holiday a month for Jazz.
Yeah, why has no one actually pointed that out? That's outrageous.
Jazz, you've been 4 times since January.
There was a couple of like family weddings.
Have you gone to China?
I had to go take my recycling to China. I was there on business.
You went to the sweatshop to get a t-shirt for the child.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So what's the solution, guys? I mean, what? Like,
I've
heard none of us can even.
If we came up with a solution now.
Well, I mean, we've not even banded about ideas. What could what could potentially change this? What would have to happen?
Or just, I suppose, on an individual level, then eating less meat and more veggie Percy Pigs, I guess. And
Because recycling doesn't work, because as we've already discussed, that just gets shipped across.
They have to put in massive. The government have to put in systematic changes to how, like they talk about this thing called the Green New Deal, which is like a
AOC?
AOC from the States, but actually it was apparently an idea that came up with the UK first.
Cool. Like we did it,
and we got there first. But she's like set it out there, and it's like basically you take on massive government borrowing, and you repurpose, like you put all sort of unemployed people. You could affect some Brexit issues as well, where people have had unemployment for a long time. They get retrained in like insulating homes, in regreening the environment, taking agricultural land and replanting stuff, and you put everyone to work in sort of changing the makeup of our economy so that it becomes more carbon neutral.
Thatcher could have done that when she closed the mines.
But exactly. It's
She could have done that. Yeah.
Like they say that if we just move to like insulate a lot of the existing building stock, that because this country has loads of uninsulated homes. Rewild stuff, like move to move to more of a electric vehicles, electrification of like rail lines that are using fossil fuels, and you did that all with public money. So there would be massive government borrowing, which a lot of people don't like. That would be one way in the next 10 years of tackling sort of systematic unemployment and inequality, and also.
Do you think that would put us at risk based on our stance in the global economy? We would if we took on massive government borrowing, it would weaken our stance on the global scale, and that's probably why we wouldn't do it. That's probably why we wouldn't do it.
But I think a lot of go on. I've talked a lot.
No. I was just going to say everything you just said is like that concept of money doesn't grow on trees. All this stuff that you're saying is not realistic.
So what happens then in when the 10 years is up and all the homes have been insulated and all that sort of stuff? What happens to the unemployed that were unemployed before and they've been trained to do these things, and then there's no more homes to insulate?
I mean, I think. Well, I don't.
We invade the country and insulate their homes.
Exactly.
We start insulating Poland, and we start insulating France.
Good for you. Motherfucker.
But no, I think that would damage us it would damage our position in the global economy.
I actually think that now, under the way that things look, I think the UK would be looked upon like people would actually respect that. Like you would, I think the ratings, like the way
they'd respect us, but we'd be almost like Switzerland. They were just sort of like.
I think honestly, like I think that, and you got younger politicians coming through. Most people are engaged in this sort of stuff. I think people would think we're like a forward thinking, nation that's like looking to address these real big issues.
What does happen in the longer term? Once all that stuff's done, what happens then?
We need to start paying off the government debt.
You're paying off the huge government debt that you've got, and then also do all those people go back to being unemployed?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, unemployment itself is a whole other thing. Like I think in the future with AI, there'll be a lot more unemployment anyway.
Yeah, I was talking about
that in itself is a big
trains,
problem.
for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that's
they're coming for you, Mike.
I'm sorry, Mike. I forgot you were sitting there.
That won't happen in our lifetime, and
you hope.
No. But it won't happen on the overground routes anyway for a long time, because the infrastructure is too complex.
Is that what the union told you?
No. It's fact. The
DLR, is it the DLR?
Yeah,
the DLR.
The DLR is a straight line. It's a straight line there, straight line back.
Plus, I think that's one of the most profitable lines, isn't it?
Yeah,
the DLR.
Yeah, that's just a trolley.
But that's it. It's basically like a tram. It just goes backwards and forwards. But when you're actually talking
Great
about
service, though.
it
is a great service.
Yeah, if you're a West Ham fan, But if southern routes, for instance, going down to Brighton, and you've got all the branch off lines to Eastbourne and Littlehampton and all that sort of stuff. The infrastructure's too complex.
Really? Can't they just use switches?
And they run too many trains per hour for it to work. There's too many.
You could just have the train driving, and then there's an operator who changes the switch, or the switch is on the timetable.
But that's what happens anyway, because you have the signaller who changes, who gives you routes.
So why do we actually need a driver there to drive?
The biggest thing there is the safety element of it. It's the safety element.
Okay, I get the safety part.
Let's say between. I'll throw two stations out there between Hurst Green and Lingfield, down near East Grinstead.
What the fuck?
It's down near East Grinstead.
Say some London station.
Now it's about 12.5 miles worth of track between the stations.
Right. Okay.
So then let's just say you've got a 12-car train on a Friday evening, bringing everyone back who works in London back down to the coast. So East Grinstead, back down that way, right? And you get 2 carriages on fire in the middle of, and then it's just passengers and a train in the middle of nowhere with a train on fire.
But like the DLR doesn't have like at each station there are I suppose what are they, inspectors or people who work.
Yeah, but what's the distance between a station on a DLR?
No, but I'm saying like
It's
they
probably
get,
a mile. It's like a tube,
but
yeah,
they get on the trains. They like they go through the carriages, make sure everything's okay. Like
You just install a sprinkler
if
system.
If it's purely about safety.
But Mike's got a good point though, that the overground is a completely
It is a completely different thing.
Infrastructure's far too complex to be running. I'll give you an example. Our Thameslink, the contract was due to run out next year, but they've just extended it by another 2 years. And TfL wanted to buy Southern.
I've heard about that.
But because TfL want to run twice as many trains an hour as we do, and our infrastructure, Southern's infrastructure that we use, our tracks are too complex. They can't do it. So they didn't want to buy us because they can't run that many trains. They physically can't do it.
Tracks, they're not owned by Southern. They're owned by
Network
Rail.
But I mean, I'm saying the tracks that we use, the tracks that our trains run over. And let's not forget, the majority of those tracks were put down in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I saw something.
So it's old.
I think it was I saw like an interview. It was like Channel 4 about nationalising the railways. I think there was a stat like maybe 60% of delays are because of like Network Rail, which is government run, and not the independently run trains. So
a lot of them are.
They're franchises, the different companies, aren't they?
Yeah, they're franchise. Yeah, so they do. So Network Rail obviously look after the tracks, but they do a lot of their engineering works at night and over weekends, bank holidays, and stuff like that. Now, if predominantly their engineering works overrun, so if you for a Sunday night, which is nice and quiet, that's fine. They shut a particular line to get their engineering works in, and it overruns by 2 hours into 8 o'clock Monday morning. You've ballsed up the whole rush hour. You've ballsed up the whole morning rush hour, and that's nothing to do with the driver. That's nothing to do with a signaller or a train operating company. It's to do with Network Rail.
But to be quite honest, you can't really blame Network Rail, because I think if any company was doing the repairs,
no, I don't necessarily. I'm not saying the blame is on them, but it's like Ed was saying about renationalising the railway. Well, it's not actually the railway itself.
It's the franchise. It's the services, the franchises.
Because actually, the ones who look after the track are run by the government anyway.
Yeah.
So that argument just always seemed a bit weird, considering that a lot of the delays are
caused by Network Rail.
But that argument's interesting anyway. But like that was a sidestep anyway. But yeah, like I don't know, Jazz, say something.
At least computers wouldn't watch porn.
That's true.
On company time.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely convinced that was the driver. I think because Southwest trains have still got guards, and that's what it was. It was a Southwest trains train. So they still use guards on their trains where Southern don't, and there's loads of others. Thameslink don't, and all those lot. And I think it was the guard who
still pretty bad.
I think it was the guard who was listening, watching whatever he was doing, and he'd made an announcement before, I think, and not put the thing down properly, and so everybody,
doesn't really hurt anyone,
Dallas on repeat, which is fine. Yeah, there was like a guy.
No one was complaining.
Well, there was a guy who was driving a train. I can't remember where he was going, because on some of our services we have an OBS, an onboard supervisor, who's not a guard. He hasn't got the same responsibilities, but checks tickets and whatever. And on Twitter, as people normally do, they've gone on Twitter and said, "Oh, the driver's on his phone. I can hear the driver. They were sat behind or he'd left the PA thing on again. I can hear the driver having an argument with his girlfriend on the phone. Blah blah blah." So then the driver's been taken off the train. And was potentially going to lose his job because he's got his phone on in the cab, which you're not allowed to do. And it turns out it was the OBS in the other cab at the back of the train. They're allowed their phones on because they're in and out of the train and whatever.
Basically, these guys screwing up for everyone.
Get rid of them.
But it's just that whole
and that's why we need
get rid of them.
Robots would have their time, like conversations their own time.
Well, that's fine. Have you not seen Airplane 2?
What happened in there? What the inflatable like?
No, but the computer goes mad and tries to drive him into the sun. I mean, you know what I mean? Come on now, do we not watch films?
It's not like I don't watch that many films.
We won't get onto that subject. But no, I think that won't happen in our lifetime. I believe that. And if it happens after I retire, then
Yeah,
so
but
what?
to be quite honest, in our lifetime, I'm pretty sure it will happen in the next 60
I'm
years.
not sure. I don't think
reckon
it will.
would.
I really
Do you
don't
reckon you're
think.
going to live for another 60
60
years?
years.
He's never,
Hopefully.
mate. He's hit it hard.
I'd only
He's
be
never lived
83.
for 60
Jesus
years.
Christ.
He looks like
He looks like he's 63
Oh,
already.
No, but the serious point is that the nature, whether it's train drivers, whether it's shop assistants, whatever it is, the next 30, 40, not like 10, 20, 30 years, the nature of employment is going to change.
But
it's
doesn't that
gonna
happen all the time, Joe?
No, but go on.
So I mean, 50 years ago, it was. I was going to say the mines that you referred to. In fact, generations have to reskill themselves. Constantly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I think the idea that when a coal mine closes down, a telecom center or car phone warehouse pops up or whatever, it's just like a circle of life.
Yeah.
I actually think that the idea that it's a net, the employment loss is a zero, like in terms of it, what one cancels the other each other out is a fallacy, because there's so much more unemployment now.
Also, Sainsbury's checkouts. Self-service. Jesus, that's ripped. That's ripped a load of
and beyond that as well, what we've never done in this country is reskill people who have been made unemployed.
Exactly, and I think that's where you'd want to put your focus on, because it's the thought of not moving forward.
I'm not suggesting that we don't embrace these technologies. I'm just saying that we have to think about work different.
Yeah, which is fine.
But let's take Sainsbury's in Tooting as an example. You've got the self-checkouts both ends, Shane. Yeah, it's both ends that you've got the self. Now, at any one time, you could have, 10 to 12 shop assistants there, because they're always going tits up. They're always breaking. So you've got just as many people there as you would have on a checkout, but they're manning self-checkouts.
Maybe, Mike. Maybe that's just a bad Sainsbury's. I mean,
Have you shopped at Waitrose?
Because the one in my work, I literally just grab my water bottle, swipe it through, and I'm out there within. I think I could probably do it in a minute. It's that quick.
I actually,
your contactless card, everything.
Even Morrison's in Wimbledon is the same. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 shop assistants there.
And the technology is only going to get better.
Yeah.
It's like clunky at the moment. It's going to be in
I actually make the conscious decision not to use self-checkout.
I do sometimes if I've got quite a bit of stuff.
There's lots of things that I disagree with. One is, I think that you're purposely making people unemployed for profit, basically. I don't think it's any better. And two, we have a lot of old people who go out and do their shopping, and they might not speak to anybody for that whole day. They go to the checkout, they say howdy.
That is a good point.
So I do make a conscious decision not to use self-checkout, because I just think it's putting money into the pockets of these big corporations anyway, and plus it rips something out from the community, especially for old people.
The worst thing is then if the checkout person's just a moody.
Gives you terrible service.
I should have just used the machine.
And he says, "Have a nice day."
Yeah, exactly. At least the machine wishes me a good day.
But no, it has been. I've been looking at that for a long time and thinking that's not something I agree with. I mean, I'm all for technology, but that is something I don't agree with.
It is a tricky one. I mean, my mum works for John Lewis, and then so she says the same thing, and obviously she does something different now. But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm always amazed with technology, and this is gonna sound I know it's gonna sound basic, but I don't care. With the whole climate change discussion, I actually think just don't worry about it. Because I think there's going to be some technology that's just going to sort it all out. I really do.
You're that hopeful?
I am that hopeful. I think there's going to be something that will just cool the atmosphere. I don't know. I think
this is going to be one
some
of those
machine that just sucks out all of the carbon and turns it into purified water.
We're going to find 7 up, and it'll open up a big umbrella.
I'm always
massive
amazed.
shades for the sun. Yeah.
Wasn't it in Futurama where they got all the rubbish on the world and they booted it out, and then it came back to the Earth?
Well, in The Simpsons, they did that huge, big sort of shade when Mr. Burns covered the sun.
But we are looking at solutions. We're looking. The reason why I feel that we're probably dragging our heels a bit is because we'll probably find some other planet or moon, and we'll find some other planet or moon, and we'll terraform it, and then we'll go there, and then we'd mess that up, and then we'll find another moon that's got water on it and terraform that.
Didn't I read? This might have been a while ago now, so it might have been a load of crap. But that there was running water on Mars?
Yeah, I think they're actually, aren't they
If
actually
there
going to go
was,
there?
it's not like-
No, I think it's ice.
Oh, there isn't now.
I think there's
No.
ice at the poles, isn't there?
Yeah, I think there might be.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I think like there's evidence that there was running water at some point,
Ah.
but I think the atmosphere like.
Well, let's just all fuck off to Mars.
So can I just summarise what we've said? It's too difficult to get people to eat less meat.
But we can fuck off to another planet. We can
We're going to
terraform it.
wholesale go to Mars.
Exactly, because Thames Water got there first.
But why are we going to, like, you know, there is going to be that expedition that we're going to go to Mars. Like, what is the purpose of that? It is
Basically talking about interstellar.
well, no, there is. Isn't there? Didn't NASA announce that they're now trying to? Is it within 7 years they're going to?
That probably. Yeah.
I don't know, but they're saying that they're actually going to send people.
Send people to Mars, yeah, within the next decade. Yeah.
And the only reason to do that is to see the possibility of terraforming Mars. And
Do you know why he's doing it? It's because China announced a space program. It's just
so it's just another
it's just
race,
it's just another race, yeah.
like it was with Russia back in the
I'm a bit taught. I mean, you know, I half agree with Nav in what he's saying. You know, not necessarily who cares, but you know, let's. I know that's not what you said, but you know, I half agree with Nav.
Did he actually
and
say
then-
that? He actually did
No,
say. He
I
cares.
don't think he did. No, he never said who cares. He didn't, did he? Well, if he did, he didn't mean it. There you go. I'll back him up. But and I also agree with the Extinction Rebellion and all that sort of stuff, and that things need to change. But it's just, how do you do it? And how long is
exactly.
it going to
How do we do it?
There's this David Attenborough did this documentary, and it speaks to a lot of the points that you put out there. Nav. Like, it's hard. He what's quite good about it. He introduces it, and he's sitting in the British countryside, and everything's perfect. It's like idyllic landscape, and everyone's like, "What could possibly go wrong?" And he talks through like quite systematically all the problems, like in terms of not just carbon emissions, but like rising sea levels, like the loss of biodiversity, and how that. Like everything is so intricately linked to everything else. When you have less insects, I don't know.
It goes down to like little things like hedgehogs, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
the lack of hedgehogs that are now here and stuff like that because of what they do for the environment.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. And so it's so complicated. You can't just like strong arm it with some sort of science to extract carbon out of the or put a load of AC on and cool everything down. Or,
I don't know. We'll see. Science is an amazing thing. I don't know. I'm still hopeful.
And Nav loves the
And I'm
warm
gonna
weather.
yeah, exactly. And I just bought a couple of pairs of shorts.
I'm eating some meat off this podcast. So I don't want to feel guilty about eating meat. Right?
Like a raw steak. Yeah.
Maybe the problem's simpler. It's just that there's far too many of us. We've exploded as a species.
So
That's
was
the
Thanos
problem.
right then? Is that what
So,
we're saying?
yeah,
That's
I
where
mean,
we're going.
we're the ones putting the ecosystem out of balance because there's so many of us. I
Use
mean,
the word
if,
balance as well. Shit.
Oh fuck!
Yeah.
if if there was
Does look like he's got a
fewer
little
of
bit a
us,
testicle chin as well.
if there was fewer of us, we wouldn't be discussing these problems. It's the
True.
fact that we are the ones putting the ecosystem out of balance because there's two. If you got a massive population of, I don't know, say snakes, and they started destroying the ecosystem, we'd start killing them.
have a
But no
cull.
one does that to us.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't
You have a
badgers.
cull, but no one does
You're
that to us.
suggesting genocide on this.
I'm not
podcast.
suggesting genocide.
I
I'm
feel
saying-
like
I'm
we're
saying
going
this
down
is-
the route of like a survival of the fittest type.
No,
thing
but
here.
this
Hunger
is. I'm just
Games,
saying
yeah.
these are the reasons. Is because we don't really have anything on a natural scale that actually thins us out, other than viruses and disease. But
Other
That could
people.
be a government policy. What about one-child policy? Introducing that?
Yeah,
You know what
possibly.
I mean, that
that could work. I mean, that's why I've made a conscious decision to only have one child.
Oh, right.
Literally, I made the conscious decision to do
I
that.
feel like you've
years
done
ago.
that because you couldn't be bothered.
I was too lazy to have another one.
Yeah, I don't feel like it was a conscious decision
Like he's
for
the one doing all the work as well.
Yeah, well, you know, he couldn't be bothered with that next 30 seconds of graft.
Touche.
Well, moving on swiftly.
Moving
So,
on,
yeah,
yeah.
Nav likes the warm weather.
I do.
I was gonna say just back
mean-
to like something Jazz was saying about employment, I suppose, and factory as well. So you talked
Yeah,
about,
that was quite
you
interesting.
mentioned factory, so like we moved from like say a manufacturing economy to more of a service-based economy.
We already are here, though, aren't
Yeah,
we?
and
We're
I
pretty
suppose
much
like I
service
saw
based.
like something I think last week. I think Sainsbury's like they've put the first like till or checkoutless like supermarket. So it's not even those like ones we were talking about earlier. You just go into the store, pick up your stuff,
And walk out. Yeah, because they
you log it on your app.
Yeah. I've seen that.
So then, like in terms of like the next stage for employment, what happens when like we're not even a service economy.
Well, yeah, I mean,
All the self-checkouts are made redundant, you're saying, basically.
to be quite honest, the Japanese are already there. They already have like vending shops, don't they? Where like you literally go in, if you want a hot dog, there's no staff there.
Yeah.
Put your money in the machine, out pops a hot dog. They have that. They have whole stores where there's nobody there.
But you say, I mean, yeah, say that's in when me and my dad went over to Milan in September. They've got them all over the train stations as well. Big, huge, massive vending machines that do
and you
everything
that's
from
it.
plugs to all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean?
There's
no staff.
I heard in France they have baguette vending machines.
Yeah, baguette vending machines. Yeah, I've seen that as well. I suppose it is that. It's that next level, isn't it? That next level of.
But I suppose like the AOC, like Green New Deal, I suppose the original New Deal was to kickstart the economy. Yeah. And I suppose the Green New Deal, like if like the economy is going to be kickstarted by training people to insulate homes, and then that's not a long term like endless like
I just think that if at the end of it we're thinking, oh well, we've quite substantially reduced our carbon emissions over like 15 years or something, but we've got quite a few unemployed people, I think that would be a good place to be in.
But we could also train other countries to do the same thing that we
like as mean invade, like I said earlier.
Well, we could then we could become a country that's the lead of that particular sort of
like the good old days
industry. And then we could teach other, you could teach other nations how to do it, and
But it comes down to my point about like thinking about work differently. And that at the moment now we think you've got to work for a living. Like you associate, basically your sense of worth or self from your job, like how much you earn, what house you can buy, all that stuff. And they talk a lot about like universal basic income, where because employment will be so much more precarious. Basically, everyone only works like 3-4 days a week. Nav, you're like that, and everyone gets a basic income, and then you.
Me.
I think you said like you don't.
All right, guys, people at work listen to this podcast, right? Stop that.
No, didn't you once say like in terms of like politics, like parties, like like they're not always doing anything radical.
The Greens want a 4-day week.
And, you're right, because I to Jazz's point is. Needs a fundamental change. It just seems like the same thing over and over in terms of all the parties.
But like to the point though, like so when we have these self checkout machines everywhere, the idea that you were saying, Nav, like it's just part of we're on the next stage of a natural evolution. Yeah. The idea would be there'd be enough sort of vending machine technician guys to replace all the checkout people. And
it's just not. Yeah, it wouldn't.
No, I don't think that's my point, Jazz. It's not it's not like a Venn diagram where it's just it overlaps with a difference. What I'm trying to say is then it makes people learn a new skill. Shouldn't we be moving towards always aiming for more productivity, always aiming for more free time? And if technology gives us that, then isn't that something that we should aspire to?
100%, yeah. Like I agree that, but the idea is we have more free time. So you'd move to like a 3 or 4 day working week, and you'd have more time for leisure activities. Yeah. The leisure economy would boom because of that. There'd be more, like it's going to be warmer, so seaside's going to be doing great. Yeah, but for that though, everyone's the reason universal basic income comes into it is because everyone gets a standard income, and if you want to top it up, like by starting your own business, doing some whatever Uber driving or whatever it is, you then get a top up. I mean, it
sounds extremely left wing.
It is. It's and it's just an
idea, and again, it's another idealistic idea because where you're going to pay everyone 20k a year. You know what I mean? So
I'm not suggesting that this is the way forward. It's just a discussion point.
Okay.
And I think it's a good one, Jazz.
Yeah, I think it's a good one.
I mean, they tried it out in was it Sweden? Is it Sweden that they've got a universal basic income? I think it's one of the Scandinavian.
I think they did try it out in like one of the Scandinavian countries,
right.
But I don't think it's happening at the moment.
They don't have it there now. I don't know if they did try it.
All right, yeah.
So it didn't go very well then.
I think it might. To be honest, it might not have been about how well it did. It might have just been like a different political party became in charge and they just changed the rules. I think that's. But yeah, might have to do some research there. Yeah.
No, but I suppose the risk you run is that people then decide I could just live off this and then don't work. Do you know what I mean? Then it does slow down.
Yeah, but that's the point.
But yeah, that is. I get that. Yeah.
No, but that's my point though. Is that actually there will be less work to do because the robot's going to do it.
Yeah.
So people, if they wanna like travel, go on holiday, whatever, they need like you'll get housing, roof over your head, very modest lifestyle you can have from it. And then if you want more than that, you've got to go out.
The more I think about it,
I think it's a good idea. This is what I'm saying.
The more
It's a good thing then.
the more that I think about it,
Yeah, absolutely. You're getting me wrong. I never said that technology is a bad idea.
the more I think about it, the more inevitable that actually sounds.
My counter, Mike said, like, what's gonna, if you had this Green New Deal, what are you gonna do with all these people afterwards, right? Like, and I'm saying probably by that time, in 25, 30 years time, you know, because it's not going to be a 10-year thing. If they were to do it, take ages. But then probably my guess is that work is going to be a completely different beast than what we're thinking about it.
I mean, Shane's going from the angle of a coal, but that's fine. I mean, you know.
But I wasn't saying that we needed a coal. I was just saying that we don't.
So we may not even have to worry anyway, because all the ones that have been retrained to insulate houses, we'll just kill them off.
I wasn't saying that. I was just saying that we have nothing. We have nothing that thins out our numbers, really, do we? That's all. That's the point I was trying to make.
Can you go insulate that big hole in the ground? Close the door.
That's it. Fill it in.
No one to fill out numbers until Shane steps up. Yeah?
Shane, what's those 3 rings you've got? They look nice little colours, and you've got 3 open holes.
I just seen like universal basic income was in Finland like for 2 years.
Okay.
Oh, so you got the.
Yeah, I think people were paid like
fat.
560 euros a month, but like it was a study of, it basically did it for 2,000 people, and it basically says that the rate of employment didn't go up, so they didn't have this money then seek other employment. They just kind of kept on that.
It didn't fall though, did it?
No, employment didn't fall, but like it basically said they were happier, but they weren't really looking for jobs, so the economy wasn't boosted by them. Yeah.
Of course they were happier. They were getting paid to do nothing.
Yeah, it's true.
But that's an obvious thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that you're going to be happier.
In fact, that study was
And
actually
if
pretty
you are
pointless.
that sort of modest person, that
I think you'd need to do it on a larger scale than
that
2,000 people,
you
to
could
be
live
honest.
with that sort of money, but then obviously you're not going to go and find a job, are you? So yeah.
Yeah, and look, and if we're going to be more miserable because we don't eat meat, but we could have 3 days
Yeah, imagine
off.
how much money you'd save, because you know,
I would turn into a vegan to just
what I
only
mean.
work 3 days a week.
eating a big thing
Happily.
of lettuce 3
Nah,
times a day.
it's not worth it. I'll work 5 days and have
I'm going to force down another vegan Percy Pig.
Don't do it to yourself, man.
I'm eating too many of these. Can someone take
That's
them?
all right.
There's only one of the actual proper Percy Pigs left.
Oh, they're awful. They're not nice.
See, I feel like it's the more you eat, the less you like.
Yeah,
That's
they're
why I've
not
only
nice.
had one. I'm not having.
I've got that aftertaste now. I didn't have that before.
Alright, should we leave it there? Yeah.
Yeah. We'll wrap that up.
Right, cool.
Right.
Yeah, it's about like almost an hour. Cool. All right.
Really?
Yeah.
Right, that's enough now. Jazz can go.
Yeah, right, cheers. Yeah. I got nothing to contribute. I'll ask some shit.
Alright, until next time.